What'd you expect, destroyers? Come on, put it together. Unload them.
Most people have already seen the movie A Bridge Too Far, but my grandfather lived it. In 1999, my father, Alan W. Haggard, wrote a book about his father's experiences in World War II. His father's name was Albert Cleveland Haggard. He was of the 82nd Airborne that were in the boats that took the bridge too far. But that wasn't the only story. His journey to get there, what happened in between and afterwards, is a remarkable survival story and spiritual story. In 1999, my dad and grandfather were interviewed for a radio show. The following is remastered by me of this radio show because the tape is in terrible condition. After the radio show, you'll hear me do a telephone interview with Dad that was taking place just yesterday, where he will give some more insight on the story.
It's a ride we've been given.
All right, Birmingham, the show, Talk Radio 102.3 WWII FM. Monday afternoon, starting off a brand new week. It is Armed Forces Week, all week long, as best as we can. Going to be celebrating those who are currently in service to the United States of America. Armed Forces Week, I believe Armed Forces Day is coming up this Saturday. So this whole week is celebrating Armed Forces Week. Memorial Day is the day that we celebrate those who have fought in service to the country, who have died either in service or since the time of their service. Veterans Day is a time that we salute those who have served, who are still living. And Armed Forces Day is a time in which we salute and celebrate those who are currently in service to the United States of America. To all of you, I appreciate you. I thank you for all of your sacrifices, for what you've done. We're going to continue on this week and talk about different facets of the life of the soldier. That's coming up tomorrow. And also a lot of controversy, a lot of questions lately about the VA hospital, about veterans benefits, and hopefully a little later on in the week, tomorrow and the next day, we can clear up some of these questions for you. My guest today is, you're an Alabama man, aren't you?
No, actually, I'm from Tennessee. My father's from Alabama.
He's from Alabama. Okay. You was in there somewhere. Alan Haggard joined the 241st Engineering Installation Squadron of the Tennessee Air National Guard in 1971. He spent 6 years in enlistment as a ground radio repairman, later cross-trained in cable splicing. That coincided with your civilian job as a telephone cable repairman with Bell South. You made 7 parachute jumps, and your enthusiasm for aviation and military history has prompted you to become a private pilot, to study everything from the war between the states to current events, and become an author. You've written a book that we're going to be talking a little bit about today, Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. Alan Haggard, thank you for being in the studio today.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Now, what prompted you to write the book was somebody that you obviously have a great deal of respect for, your father.
Well, of course, I've heard his stories since I was a child about what he did in the war and everything. But it was all kind of jumbled up. You could never really put it all together. And I have a great uncle who served in the Civil War and lost a leg, and very little was known about him other than that. And when my grandson was born, I got to thinking about it, and I thought, it'd be a shame if he never knew who his great-grandfather was. I'd hate for him to end up forgotten, like this ancient relative of mine has apparently been. So I decided to try to put this book together, and it did some doing to talk him into it, but he finally agreed to work with me on it. And I think he's got a pretty interesting story.
I think he does, too, and he's also agreed to be on the show a little bit today and fill us in. Mr. Albert Cleveland Haggard, are you with us on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate what you've done. Thank you for being here, and you obviously are the inspiration for the book that we're going to talk about today. So anything that you feel like you need to throw in, all you have to do is jump in and say it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much for what you've done. The book, Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. Tell me about the book and how you can get a hold of it.
Well, it's a self-published book, and the only way you can get a copy of it is through me. I'm selling it. The story is about a farm boy. My father was 17 years old when he joined the Army. After Pearl Harbor, he volunteered to go into a brand new branch of service, which was the Airborne. And the story just goes from the time he grew up in King, or it wasn't King's Cove, it was a cove down right beside the Bridgeport Ferry in Bridgeport, Alabama. Yeah. And he and my mother both grew up down there in that cove. And the story begins down there, and then takes you on through his original enlistment in the Army, on to whenever he turned back home.
How long were you in the Army, Mr. Haggard?
4 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks.
And how much of that was combat?
373 days on the front line and behind enemy line.
Could you tell me a little bit about the things that you saw, the things that you did?
Well, I had a lot of butterflies in the stomach.
I imagine you did. I believe you.
But I thought through, you will read it in the book, Taking of the Bridge at Nijmegen, Holland, and we lost half our company there doing that.
By the end of the war, and you were I Company, 3rd Battalion, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. By the end of the war, how many were left?
How many were left?
Yes.
They was 4, all I could count for was 4 men that jumped in Sicily.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the war. That was the first time in combat. We spearheaded the invasion of Sicily. And there was 4 of us left that made that jump. And then from there we lost men all the way through, and after each battle we'd have to come back and get replacements.
I'll tell you what, it sounds to me like we've got a walking, talking hero on the phone, and I'm looking forward to reading the book. I'll certainly read it, look forward to it, and as far as the content of the book, I know you don't want to give everything away, but the hours it must have gone into telling the stories, piecing it together, getting it in the order that it needed to be in. Just tell me about the book and some of the things that are included in the book that you've written, Alan.
Well, it was a very trying experience. It's taken about a little over 2 years to get this far with. When I put the thing together, I finally conned him. I hit a tape player under the table and taped it the first time. And then when I wrote a little bit, then I could bring it out in the open. He's kind of shy, when things like that. I'm surprised he's even on the phone.
I don't know. Somebody who's been through what he's been through, I don't know, shy?
But, you don't know my dad.
Okay. Thank you, word for it.
But when I took the tape recordings home, it was a real job to put everything in a time frame and to go through history books and put everything in order. And that's what's so unique about it, I think, because once you put everything in order, it makes a whole different story than just hearing it a piece at a time.
Mr. Haggard, when you read the book, and I'm sure that you've read it all the way through, does it bring back the memories, or I'm sure that it does, are there pieces that you wish now you had added? Are there things that you could tell us that maybe aren't in the book? Or do you feel like it pretty much tells the story?
Oh, ma'am, I've told about everything I know.
Tired of talking, aren't you? Tell them to read the book, right? Just read the book.
Just read the book and it'll tell you all about it.
Okay. 373 days of combat, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
We've got chapters in the book, everything from, you've got historical and you have eyewitness. The chapters are marked, historical, eyewitness. What's the purpose of all that?
Well, the way that thing is done there is the historical part before each chapter gives the reader a background, tells them the strategic and tactical situation in the area, sometimes in the entire world, or for leading up to a certain battle. For example, the invasion of Sicily. It explains why Sicily was invaded. There was a lot of pressure put on Churchill at the time to open a second front in Europe because the Russians were under severe pressure in the east. And so Churchill decided that Italy was the place to strike. And that gives the background behind that. And then following that, he gives his eyewitness account of what he as a common soldier actually saw. And there was a lot of things that he wasn't aware of, like Operation Mincemeat, for example, where British intelligence took the body of a vagrant who had died in a London warehouse, dressed him up as an officer, and dumped him in the ocean to deceive the Germans into thinking that the landings were going to be somewhere other than Sicily. And, of course, the common soldier had no knowledge of that.
Right. So, what we're seeing going on now in Kosovo, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of understanding. I don't know about the soldiers, people in general, don't really seem to have a firm grip on why we're there or what the whole thing is about. I mean, even if they know what we're doing here, the history behind the whole situation, it's vast. Doesn't seem to be very well known. And the Second World War, was it like that? I mean, now hindsight, you can look back and piece it all together, but the common soldier fighting in the Second World War, was it similar to this?
Well, maybe my father can answer that better, but I think what it is if you don't study history and learn from it, then it's going to happen again. It's just like when Hitler tried to exterminate the Jews, the same thing is going on in Kosovo today, and I believe that's why we're there, to try to stop it. But if the more you know about history and the more enlightened you are on it, the more you understand what's happening today.
Perhaps, if we're lucky, we won't have to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over. We're coming right back. We're at 267-1023 and 1-888-779-TALK. We've got Alan Haggard. He is the one who has written the book Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. The book is a story about the Second World War, about his father. His father's name is Albert Cleveland Haggard. He's also on the line with us today. So, guys, hang on. If you want to call and talk to these men, 267-1023. Star 102 on Bell South and Pound 102 on GTE Wireless. For Birmingham, the show. Thank you for listening. Stephanie Birmingham coming right back. Show on Talk Radio 102.3. We're back with Alan Haggard, who has written a book called Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. It's a book about the stories that he heard through the years that his father told of the Second World War, 373 days of combat. It seems to me that you've got somebody who definitely knew what they were talking about, and I'm glad that you took time to write it down in the books for the very reasons that you said. I wish my grandparents were still around to tell some of the stories that I didn't listen to very closely. They're not here anymore. I'm glad you've done this. A couple of questions for you, Mr. Haggard. Have you seen the movie Saving Private Ryan? Mr. Haggard? Still with me, Mr. Haggard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Have you seen the movie Saving Private Ryan?
Yes, ma'am, I've seen it.
I've heard it said by people who were in combat in the Second World War that movie is about as close as it gets.
Yes, ma'am, it was.
So you agree with that?
Yes, ma'am. Have you ever seen The Bridge Through the Water?
I was going to ask you about that. The movie with Robert Redford. That's about the invasion of Holland, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you think about that one?
Well, most of it was looked pretty real, except for us making amphibious crossing across the river. Mm-hmm. And we were seeing things there that didn't show in the movie.
Seeing things like what?
Tracers coming at us over our head.
I can imagine that was a nerve-wracking time.
Yes, ma'am.
When we went to see that movie several years ago, when we first came on the theater, I talked to him into going to see it with me, and as it got into the movie, he would point out mistakes and flaws in the movie. He would say those planes weren't that color, they weren't brown, they were green, or vice versa. And it was kind of comical. He was getting a little loud about it, and there were people looking around kind of irritated. And before it was over with, you could notice those people straining their ears to hear what he was saying, and they were paying more attention to him than the movie because I thought, golly, this guy was really there. And
did anybody go up to you after the movie? And
no, but it was really an experience to watch this movie with him. And the part about the river, like you said, the tracers they didn't show in the movie, and I think he also said that the explosions in the water weren't really there; they were actually aerial explosions, and the aircraft shells being fired at. Isn't that the way you said it was?
Yeah.
In the movie Saving Private Ryan, the opening scene, probably one of the most, what is the word for the emotion I felt when that opening scene was on? It was certainly the most stressful, one of the most stressful scenes in the movie. Heard it's very, very realistic.
Yes, ma'am, it was.
What can you tell me about that related to your experience?
Well, it was something the same way. I mean, you could hear the bullet hitting, and push shaving around, It's like it hit the ears as those guys went in the shoulder. It sounded just realistic.
If you could tell a story, a brief story right now, when I say brief, I mean just a minute or so, of something that you would want people to know about your experience in World War II, about World War II, what would that be?
Well, about the first thing I'd tell any young man is stay out of the military.
Okay.
but they only train you to do one thing: kill or be killed. And well, I just can't, think right off the bat.
Would you do it again, or would you have stayed home and been a farmer, done something else?
I'd find something else.
I can't imagine wanting to relive something like that. But you have a son in the military.
Yeah, he's been trying to get me out for years too.
Trying to get you out of the military for you?
Yeah.
Hadn't worked yet, though.
No, I'm kind of stuck now. Looks like a lot of this thing over in Bosnia or that area over there, Yugoslavia is going on. I'm probably going to be with it for a while. I had printed in the book that I was going to retire in November, but looks like I'm not going to make that go this time.
Indefinite retirement date at this point in time?
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to probably hang around for a little while if this is over with.
I understand. Okay, some more interesting points coming up on that real quick. I do want to say Quick Tees. QuickTees.com on the internet will take you to Ronnie and Rusty, the guys at Quick Tees, right here in Chattanooga. If you want something put on a t-shirt, they'll do it for you. No problem. You send them a picture, they'll make a t-shirt. They'll make 50 t-shirts. They'll make 500 t-shirts. They'll be glad to do it for you at 697-1856. And Armed Forces Week right now is when we honor those who are serving currently in the military. And if there are those who are currently serving in the military, if you want a t-shirt, we've got some Birmingham to Show t-shirts and some other military t-shirts that I'll be glad to give you while they last. We've got 3 of them to give away today at 267-1023 and 1-888-779-TALK. I'm in a little bit of a disadvantage right now because I haven't read the book yet.
Mm-hmm.
Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. Is it more of like you're watching a documentary and then on the side you've got the historical references to exactly what was going on at these times?
Well, I wouldn't call it a documentary. No, it's written as if you were there, as if he is telling the story as it's going on.
Did you write it in the way that your father actually told it to you, so it sounds like him speaking?
Most of it, yes. I try to stick to his exact words as much as possible. I've added a few words with the help of my sister. She suggested that I add some other words to make it more interesting for the reader. But he's got a lot of his little sayings in there that are just unique to him. As a matter of fact, Stray Bullets Have No Eyes, that came directly from him. And maybe he can tell you where that came from.
That's a very good question, Mr. Haggard. Stray Bullets Have No Eyes.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did that come from?
Well, one night on Anjo Beachhead, we went out on the front, me and my sister Connor with a bazooka. We was out in front of the company, and we left our ammunition behind. And I did mine because I had a bazooka and found out after we got out there he left his behind. But when he discovered that we didn't have no ammunition for the bazooka, we had to go back into the company line. Then they sent us back to the ammunition dump back behind, carry ammunition up. Well, the bullets was meant front line. The Germans done started their attack. Bullets was meant for the front line, so we were dodging bullets way on back behind the line. And that was what I was referring to as Stray Bullets Have No Eyes. Then at another point then, where we went up on a hill one night, we were all exhausted, and the company laid down. Back behind us, about 30 yards behind us, and we set up 3 machine guns out front. I was on one of the machine guns that morning when the Germans come over the hill, and we all 3 opened fire. The company was supposed to build up on line with us. Instead of them building up on line, they just rolled out from under the blankets, picked up the guns, took apart where they was at. We was talking across them. And as we rolled back to get on line with the company, the guy that was with the assistant gunner for me on the gun stood up on one knee, hollering back at the company. He caught one of our own bullets through the head. So that was why I was referring to the Stray Bullets Have No Eyes.
Right.
As he put it, they don't care if they hit friend or foe.
Right. Well, the old saying that friendly fire isn't.
Well, one of the ironic things about that, the only time that my father was wounded in the entire war was with an American anti-aircraft shell in Naples. So he was a victim of that also.
The old friendly fire.
Yeah.
Mr. Haggard, I can't imagine how you feel. I can't imagine being in your shoes. But do you? How do I put it? I can only assume after being in all of the combat that you were in, after all that you saw, losing the friends that you lost, yet you're here.
Yes.
Do you feel that God must have had some sort of purpose for keeping you here? Maybe the purpose was so your son would write this book and have this record.
I didn't look through it.
You what now?
I didn't look through it. God carried me through it.
Sir, I'm glad he did. Thank you. 131. Hello, caller.
How you doing? I'd like to salute both the individual that's in there with you, Stephanie, and the individual he's talking to right now. I think they're both great Americans, and they've done our service to our country.
Yes, they are.
Sometimes I know the gentleman on the phone, I realize that it may be difficult at times, but there's things that need to be done, especially in the case with Nazi Germany. Somebody had to stop them. Unfortunately, it had to be us that did it. And as we go into Kosovo now, I was just wondering, looking at it from a perspective that you might be looking at it too. I've got one son in Albania right now, and I've got another one that's in California, Marine. He hasn't gone yet, but the other one has. I was wondering what your feeling is on this conflict that we're having right now. Since it is an undeclared war, do you feel that maybe we should go ahead and try and declare something and just do something, or should we just kind of, I don't even know how you back out of it now. You can't once you're in there. It's very difficult without losing face, but how can we salvage something out of this now? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good question for either one of you or both of you. If indeed we're in a mess that I think we're in, what can we do to salvage it?
Well, I think we are in a mess, and once you get in a mess, then it's sometimes you have to just take sometimes not the best way out, but personally, I think that if they're going to continue this thing, I believe we ought to go ahead and send ground troops in and do it right. That's what they should have done to start with. I don't think we should have ever gotten involved with it. But now that we have, somebody's going to have to do something.
Otherwise, this could just be an interminable.
Well, we made the same mistake, I think, again in Iraq. They should have finished that one. And they didn't. And a lot of that, I believe, is due to the television coverage that we have nowadays. In World War II, we didn't have TV. If images of our soldiers on the Pacific Islands and all had been shown on TV, we probably wouldn't have won World War II. During the American Civil War, there were times when they would have 10, 20,000 casualties in a single battle. And when you relate that to the population back then, if that had been shown on TV, we would be living in two different countries right now.
This is Birmingham The Show, Talk Radio 102.3. We're talking with Albert Cleveland Haggard.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are the one who this book is written about, written by your son, Alan Haggard. Ask you guys to hold on just a minute. We're coming back. I'm sure that there are callers who would like to speak to you and ask you questions. 267-1023 and 1-888-779-TALK. Armed Forces Week. All this week, Armed Forces Day is going to be this Saturday. To all of you who are serving currently in our armed forces, and to all of you who have, I thank you and I salute you, every one of you.
Okay. We'll call Dad here. Let me set this up where it won't move. Dang. Alright. Let's call him up, shall we? Hey, what you doing?
Oh, just fiddling around. What you up to?
I just finished getting Papa's interview and your interview on digital.
Oh, you did, huh?
I tell you what, I got scared.
What's that?
I started it up, okay, and it wouldn't play or something, so I put my finger in the little cog thing and spun it around till the black showed up, because I'd rewind it to the beginning. And then as it started playing, the thing started eating the tape.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, So,
Yeah.
so I pulled it out, fixed that, and I sat there and babied it for a little while before I walked out of the room so I wouldn't have some interference, But I was scared. I kept listening to the bedroom, make sure I could hear y'all's voices still from the bedroom door, And I don't know if whoever recorded that tape didn't have the volume up or if the tape's just starting to disintegrate over time. But yeah, I don't think that tape would have lasted much longer, so I'm glad we got it on digital. But I've actually recording us talking right now with another phone because I was going to see if you'd be willing for me to ask you a few questions for the video, like a little interview of you.
Okay.
Let's see. I was going to ask you about shoot. I know you were in the Guard, but what unit were you with?
I was in the 241st EIS, which is Electronics Installation Squadron.
Uh-huh. Okay. And then Pawpaw, I know he was with the 82nd Airborne, but what division was he in again? Was it 91? I can't remember.
Oh, he was in the 82nd Division, the 504th Regiment.
504th Regiment, okay.
My company of the 504th Regiment of the 82nd Division.
Okay, and you said that, shoot, you had given your book to somebody kind of had some power, I guess, and it's required reading now in a certain, is it the 504th or the 82nd where it's required reading now?
The 504th.
504th. Okay.
That was Mark Fulgham was playing the bagpipes.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Down in Savannah, Georgia.
Uh-huh.
Called me and he said the 82nd are down here. And he said they know about your book. Do you want to talk to one of the soldiers? I put him on. And I asked him how he knew about the book, and he said, "Oh, sir," he said, "you and your dad are heroes." He said, "It's required reading in the 504 in the 82nd." He said the 82nd, so I don't know if it's in the entire division or just that regiment.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's cool to know. I know I dropped off one at our Air National Guard here in Fort Payne. So I don't know what they did with it, if anything. But I did drop one off. But anyway, I was trying to get my facts down before I put the video together. And I thought if I had you on tape, that way I wouldn't mess it up. You know me, I get my numbers and my facts twisted sometimes.
Well, that's what was so hard about writing Daddy's story, because he did not want me to record his voice. And he absolutely refused to let me film him on tape,
I wonder why.
He would not. He was just shy like that.
Huh.
And so what I did, you can't possibly remember everything.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. So what I did was I hid the tape recorder under the table. And then when I went to writing, I had to back it up and listen, and because it was low volume because it was muffled,
Yeah.
And I had to go back and forth. And so finally I wrote some, and I showed it to him, and he liked it. He got into it then. And I pulled the tape recorder out on the table. And he said, "No, you can't record." I said, "Dad, I've already done it. I had to hide it the first time. I can't do this unless I record you." So he let me bring the recorder out in the open then. But he absolutely would not let me get him on film.
That's funny. Yeah, he did. That when I was telling you that I had him on film yesterday, yeah, that was Easter, and Papa had let the grass grow in the front yard just so Kyle could come and hunt Easter eggs. And yeah, I was filming him, but I did get, Papa did know I was filming. He looked at the camera and he didn't say anything, but anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's because he's a little bit older. Knew I was recording it for memory's sake, I guess. Members with the kiddos and stuff. But I don't even think I had Hunter then. I could have. I don't know. But anyway, I'll let you go. I just wanted to make sure I had some sort of preface, before the start of it, so I didn't say the wrong things.
Yeah.
When it comes to those units and regiments and all that, I get them confused. I remember the 82nd Airborne. That's the one thing I can remember. But all the rest, I get all messed up.
You got a division which is made up of several regiments.
Okay.
Regiment 505th. And it was the very first airborne division that this country had.
Mm-hmm.
It was formed, and it came from the 82nd Infantry Division of World War I. And Alvin C. York was part of that.
Yeah.
And so the 82nd became the most highly decorated division in the U.S. Army, or U.S. Airborne.
Uh-huh.
4th Regiment was the most decorated regiment of that division.
The 504th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
That was in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They had all kinds of boards. They had two, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 presidential unit citations. They got one for Anzio, and I think they got one for, I can't remember what they were for.
Yeah, I can look it up.
Anzio and Nijmegen for sure.
Yeah.
And then, Dad had, of course, he had a Purple Heart. He had a whole thing full of medals. And all those medals were the decorations, and they were the most highly decorated in the 82nd Division.
And what did he get the Purple Heart for again?
He was, it was at, let me think, it was in Italy. Naples. He was at Naples. And there was an air raid going on, and he was like on guard duty. Out where if any fires started, he was to get somebody over there to take care of it and all that. But anyway, an American anti-aircraft shell hit in the field behind him and exploded, and three of them got hit by it. He got hit, 2 other guys, and he got a piece of shrapnel in the back of his thigh.
Oh.
That's how that was the only wound he got in the entire war.
After all he'd been through.
Yeah.
He got bombed by his own people.
Yeah. He always said the friendly fire get hit by friendly fire.
Yeah.
And that's how, everybody said, what are you going to name the book? I said, I don't know. I said, it's Dad's story. I said, he'll come up with something. And that's what happened. He said, stray bullets don't have any eyes. They don't care if they hit friend or foe.
Yeah. That's so true.
So that's how he came up. He came up with the name. I mean, he didn't name it. It's just something he said. I said, all right, Dad, that's the name of the book. Stray bullets.
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's real catchy. And when they got dropped out of the plane, they went all directions and stuff. I guess they didn't get necessarily dropped off where they meant to. But
yeah, well, initially that's the way it was. They got dropped all over the place.
Yeah.
If you look at the invasion of Normandy,
yeah,
the black and white stripes on them, those are invasion markings. That came, and this is what irks me about. The 101st got credit for making the first large-scale combat drop that this country did. That's not true. It happened in Sicily. That's first. And those guys got scattered all over the countryside. He landed miles from where he was supposed to. Well, the second night, they sent in another drop, reinforcements, and they flew directly over the U.S. Navy. Well, the Navy had just been bombed by German planes. when these low-flying C-47s came over, they thought it was more German bombers, and they opened fire and shot down 27 of their own aircraft.
Oh my Jesus. That's awful.
It was the greatest event of friendly fire of World War II.
Yeah, I bet.
And, there were few, if any, survivors because, you know, these paratroopers were loaded down with all the gear and they went down over the ocean. They didn't have a chance. So when they decided to, you know, make the invasion of in Normandy, they didn't want that happening again. So they painted these invasion markings on all of the aircraft so that the Navy wouldn't shoot down their own people.
Yeah. How come the 101st got credit and not the 504?
The 101st, the 504th, the 82nd, the 504th Regiment had fought through for 9 months before the 101st ever got to Europe.
That's crazy.
They had fought through Sicily and Italy. They invaded Sicily, captured it. He went in at, they captured Naples, several towns there in Sicily. And so they saved the Anzio beachhead. They were about to be overrun. Well, the 504th saved the beachhead. That's why they got one of their presidential unit citations.
Yeah.
They were so worn out from all this battle that when it came time to invade France, you know, they needed a rest. So as a division, as a unit, the 504, I think the 505th did jump in Normandy, but the 504th did not. They recruited volunteers from them, and a few volunteered to jump in Europe, in France. But as a division, they were held in reserve. And so the night of the invasion, they slept under a plane all night long with full combat gear ready in case they were needed. And they didn't call them. They didn't need them. So, but one of the guys, a guy named Porcapel, who was fought with Daddy in Sicily, he did volunteer. And he went in as a pathfinder. And right off the bat, his entire team was wiped out, and he was the only. And he was shot in the chest and captured and later recaptured by the Americans.
God.
He survived, but his whole team was wiped out.
Holy crap. It amazes me, you know, what all he went through getting dropped in the wrong place and then having to go across the waters in the boats. Yeah. That he didn't die. And it's like he said, though, he told me, he said that the Bridge Too Far movie, he told me had it wrong. He said it was so thick with fog you couldn't see anything in front of you, and in the movie it was real clear. You could see everything.
They had a smoke screen that they fired by the British tanks.
Oh, okay.
By the time they manned the boats, the smoke had blown away. They were just totally exposed to the German fire.
Oh.
Pointed out a lot of things. It was fun watching the movie with him in the theater.
Yeah.
At first because he was getting loud. And people were turning around staring at us and all, Dad, calm down, But before it was, he was saying, oh, those planes weren't that color. And he was pointing out in the movie. And so when they were crossing the river, he had all these explosions blowing up in the water. And he said that didn't happen. He said they were shooting at us with flak wagons. Anti-aircraft cars were on the bridge, and they were firing downriver with anti-aircraft shells, and the shells were blowing up in the air, not in the water. And he said they did some damage, but what really killed them was when they got close to the shore, and the machine guns just ripped them to shreds.
Yeah.
But when he started talking about that, those shells weren't blowing up in the water, and people were straining to listen to him. It was hilarious.
Well, I know the very first time I watched it at his house on VHS, and he was saying, "There's my commander," and there, he was talking, and then they got in the water. He said, Here we go. Here we go. But I told you, and I don't know if you remember, I found out later on that at Nowagin, they've got a big, I saw it on YouTube. There's a channel that shows a big statue plaque or something they've got up there in memory of all of them that took that bridge. And they revere them as heroes. And they said, anybody that's still alive, any of their family, you are welcome here. We would love for you to come visit us because y'all are heroes to us. Y'all saved us. So they're real emotional about it too.
Yeah, those guy named Frank, he put together I was invited to the reunion they had up there for the families.
Oh, really?
And Frank, they were having a change of command at Fort Bragg. Landon Norris and Brandon went with us, and Landon Norris and me and Brandon. Anyway, Frank, he's a school teacher, and he's written several historical books about the war there in Holland, and he put all this together because he's made it his life mission to identify people, soldiers. And, he go through old pictures. And he sent me a picture, and he said, do you know this guy? And
it was what?
It was Dad. I've never seen that picture before. I don't know where he came up with it. But he, apparently he had seen the picture in the book of Dad and recognized the picture, and he sent it to me. And I said, yeah, that's my dad. And, he was sitting, they were digging foxholes, and he was sitting there in the background and had his stripes on and everything, and those people in the foreground, but he was kind of in the background a little bit. But I thought, hey, I had never seen that picture before.
That's cool. I know every time I look at World War II pictures, I'm always scanning to see if I see his face.
Well, he has identified many soldiers, and he specializes in the 504th Regiment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, he's just infatuated with 504th.
But a lot of Pawpaw's group got wiped out after they jumped out of the plane, didn't they?
A lot of what?
Didn't a lot of his group die and get wiped out? Wasn't he just a few out of that regiment to make it?
Well, by the time the war was over, he was one of only 3 left from the original regiment.
Oh my God! After they jumped out of the plane.
Well, when the war was over,
from when they jumped out of the plane on.
From the whole war.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's all through it from Sicily on, all Battle of the Bulge and everything, and he, not all of that. John Bennett, for example. John Bennett was never a member of the original regiment. He kept placement after Sicily.
Yeah.
And him and Dad became good friends, so John was never a member of the original regiment.
Gotcha.
They got replaced, but the original regiment that was on when the war was over, there were 3 of them left.
Wow, one of 3.
Who transferred out, or whatever, for whatever reason they weren't.
Gotcha.
They weren't.
Yeah, I was always under the belief that they all died, but that's not necessarily true. They might have moved on to different places and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But that's still pretty cool.
and I Company, the 504th was made up of several companies.
Okay.
One company.
He was in the I Company?
Yeah, he was in I Company.
I Company.
There were 2 companies that crossed the river at Nijmegen. And they had 50% casualties before they ever reached the enemy side of the river. Half of them had been killed or wounded before they ever reached the other side.
Yeah.
Then those that were left, they captured the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, and so badly mauled in that battle that they pulled them out and they put them in what was supposed to be a safe area. Well, the journey in the Den Hovel Woods. Well, the Germans attacked the woods, and half of what survived Nijmegen were killed in Danhover Woods.
Good grief. Did Papa ever make it to the actual bridge? You know, stand on the actual bridge? Is that...
Look, it tells all about it.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've read it, but that's where he killed somebody, right? Where he actually knows that he killed somebody who was on the bridge, right? Or was it in the water?
Before they got to the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were the boat, him and another guy got left behind.
Oh.
Most of the people in the boat were dead.
Oh, my goodness.
And they jumped out of the boat so forcefully they pushed the boat back out the river. So the guy in the very back, you know, they were out there by themselves, and the machine gun opened up on them, so both of them, you know, Daddy didn't know how to swim, but he went over the side.
Yeah.
And when they drifted down the river, well, they got separated from everybody else because the boat was drifting down the river and they were being shot at. Well, when they finally made it to the shore, Daddy said they had a mortar, and Daddy told him, he said, leave the mortar, grab your rifle, and let's go. And they jumped out, and the other guy was in front of him running, and all of a sudden he started shooting, fell down. And Dad said, what are you doing? And he said, there's a German up there. And I said, watch my bullets are hitting. And he started shooting. Daddy saw where his bullets were hitting your head. He said, I didn't see anything, so I didn't shoot. And he said he waited and waited. Finally, his buddy ran out of bullets. Well, the M1, when you run out of ammo, it ejects the empty clip. It makes a really loud ping.
Yeah.
So everybody, the German, everybody else knew he was out of ammo. And he was trying to, he said he was trying to get his bullets out of his clothes, but they were wet from being in the water, and he was having trouble getting his bullets out. And he was just screaming. Dad said, shoot him, he's going to kill us, shoot him. And Daddy said he just waited. Finally, he saw a head rise up. And as soon as he saw like the eyes below the helmet, that's when he fired, and he shot the guy right between the eyes.
Yeah.
Then when he got up, started walking, his buddy had reloaded by then and kept shooting. And he said, get down, he's going to kill you. And then he said, I got him. He said, there's two of them.
Uh-oh.
And that's when one of them jumped up through a grenade. Daddy almost got him with a grenade.
Oh, Jesus, Lord. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've read the book. I need to go back and read it. So that was more dramatic than what I remembered reading. I don't know, but Lord, I mean, it's just, I mean, all the different ways and all the different things he got out of, you know, it was like the Lord had his blessing on him, because none of us would be here. You wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. My kids wouldn't be here.
It's so funny because he never learned how to swim, but he was always running into water.
Yeah. They was all afraid of the water. I think they had, a friend of theirs drowned when they were kids or something that made them scared of the water. There was some sort of story that was told to me.
Mother and Daddy, my grandparents, nobody in the family knew how to swim.
Isn't that something?
And the reason was, they were poor, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They could not afford a doctor. You know, that was their biggest fear. You know, somebody gets hurt or something, we can't afford a doctor bill. So, and nobody knew how to swim. They were afraid to go to the water.
In case something were to happen.
They instilled that fear in their children. They said, don't go near the river.
Yeah.
Because if somebody fell in, nobody could help them because nobody could swim. You know, couldn't swim.
And it's so hard to believe with them living down there at Hogjaw Valley. I mean, I don't know if it was the river. Right. I mean, obviously the river wasn't as big as what it is now, but still you're down there by the river.
Yeah, and the creek and the river and everything.
Yeah.
And, but they would not go near the water. They told her to be afraid of the water.
And then Grandpa Calvin, you know, had the ferry. He carried everybody over the water.
Yeah. Down Island Creek, after the war, I think it was after the war was over. Might have been before the war. I can't remember now if it was before or after. but he used to be a guide, a fishing guide. And he
Grandpa was?
No, Daddy.
Oh, your dad. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he had a flat boat, a John boat, like, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he would, rich doctors, and they called them rich people because they had money.
Yeah.
Chattanooga. And he would take them to Island Creek, and he would paddle the boat around, take them fishing, and, you know, take them where the bass were.
Yeah.
You know, what they wanted, you know, it's bass fishing. So he was a fishing guy. He didn't know how to swim quick, but
he could take them fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be afraid of falling out of the boat. See, that's the problem. To me, I'd feel better walking into a creek or a river and getting out to where I'm comfortable and coming back than to be out in the water. And it'd take you a hot minute to swim to shore, even if you knew how to swim. That's what scared me.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. What?
But I learned how to swim except Roger Bank. Roger called me last night. His family had a membership at a Presbyterian church over off of Northmore Road.
Uh-huh.
And he would invite me. I'd go over there with him. And I was always in the shallow. And, you know, I was like 10 years old before I learned how to swim. I said, it made me feel bad. All my other friends knew how to swim. But, you know, my parents,
Yeah.
They didn't want us near the water. Well, because they tried to steal the same fear that they had, you know.
Exactly.
And so anyway, I over there one summer, I was bobbing around on the ropes and bobbed off into the deep side, and all of a sudden I was swimming. That's how I learned how to swim.
I have a very similar story. You remember that week that we went, I don't remember if you and Mom were still married or not, but me and Jennifer went to Aunt Glenda's and stayed for about a week one summer. And so I think y'all were already divorced, because I think he brought Donna up there while we were there. But anyway, or you brought somebody up there. I don't remember who. But,
well, we were divorced. I brought somebody up there.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I think it had to have been. But I don't remember. You know, I think y'all divorced like when I was about 7, something like that. And so I'm thinking I was like 8, maybe 9. I don't know. But we were up there, and we were at some sort of park with a swimming pool. And I remember Aunt Glenda saying she knew the guy that ran the place, and she and him were sitting and talking while us kids was swimming, and I had my swimmies on my arms. And I was swimming with this guy's son. He was a lot older than me. And I don't know if he was going to try to help me swim or what, but he either talked me into taking off my swimmies or something. But I was in the deep end when I did it. So I took my swimmies off, and down I went. And I'd come up and get a breath of air and go back down again. And he was laughing. He thought I was joking around. And I remember thinking, I guess I was screaming for help, and I don't guess anybody believed that I was actually drowning. Well, after a while, I got weak, and I went down. And I remember, you know, just floating down in the water, and I was thinking, I was upset because I thought, I'll never see my mom and dad again. I'll never see my sister. I'm dead. I remember thinking that. And that man jumped in that water and got me out and saved me. Aunt Glenda was about to have a heart attack. Everybody in the pool was having a heart attack. Well, after I get over myself, I guess I had my swimmies on. I don't know. I get back in the shallow end, and Aunt Glenda's like, get out of that pool. She didn't even want me in it no more. And I was determined at that point that I was going to teach myself how to swim, because I was not going to have that happen to me again. So I went back and forth across the pool, just trying to learn how to swim. Now, I don't think I can wade in water. I've never been able to figure that little trick out, but I can swim enough, you know. I'd hope I never be too far away from the shore. But that sounds like you had a very similar experience. And you know what Kevin's dad did? He carried them to Florida, and he just threw them out in the water. He goes, swim, whoosh, and just throws them out in the water. And they hit the water. They had to swim or die. That's what Kevin says. Yeah, Dad taught us how to swim. He just picked us up and threw us in the water and said, swim. Oh, my Lord. Well, I'll get off here, Dad, and get back to my rat kennel, let you get back to yours. And
All right.
I love you.
Love you too.
Okay, you take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was both interviews with Dad and his father, and then me with Dad. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And just remember to always thank our men and women in uniform. They go through a lot more than any of us could imagine. Until next time, I love you, and thank you so much to my members for making this stream possible. Talk to you soon. Have a great day.